What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. I'm super excited actually to be in the studio. I've just telling Johnny here that it's been, with opening the studio, and I talked to you guys the last 2 weeks ago when I came to you, that it's been the process of getting everything scheduled and building my guest list back up. And really, it's just a step in the process for the entrepreneurs out there. Consistency happens when you schedule it and make it intentional. For example, the times that I've gotten out of the gym or out of a routine, I haven't planned it and made time for it. And so I'm waiting for it for the end of the day to go to the gym. And then I get home after a long day of work and I'm tired and I don't want to go. When I'm successful at it, I sat and I've laid out my week and looked at it and like, okay, I'm going to go on Monday at this time in the morning. I'm going to really look at my whole entire week, not even just day by day, and I've got to lay it out. It's the same thing in business, in all your stuff in life, and with this podcast particularly. I didn't have a process set back up to get back into gear, and so I'm flying by the seat of my pants so much that when Joni, who's a difference maker, she's amazing. She's been on the podcast in the past, and you know what? I didn't look at. Do you remember what episode it was?
No, I don't remember the number.
Probably about a year and a half ago now.
Probably.
And so I'll put in the updated notes and the link to the past episode because it was really, really good. And I think you'll get a really good backstory for what we're going to talk about today because it's super exciting. She has a book launch, and we're going to really talk about that and some of the challenges and the diversities and the excitement that all comes along with that. But it's, again, building in those processes. And so Joni reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm looking to be on podcasts because I have a book launch coming out. And I'm like, oh, my God, that is amazing. Thank you for kicking me back into gear. Do you have time this week? I need another episode to come out. And so you're all welcome. We got Joni in the studio today. I'm super excited to talk about more and get up to date with what's happened with her and her book that's coming out that you'll be able to see in the background, Burn, Blocked, and Better Than Ever, which, the title in itself is super awesome. So, Joni, welcome to Loudmouth Studio.
Oh, this is amazing.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's awesome.
It's one of those things. And again, when you put down things and goals in place, like I've had this. It's so funny because it's like you sit and you look at like my business and like different things. I had this coach that was like, that thing that you're doing for free for people in your clients that you're just throwing in because it comes so easy for you. And you're like, hey, you need help doing this. And so you just give it to them. And they're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's the thing that you should charge for. And I'm like,
right.
Point taken. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so it's looking at that. And I've been doing I was looking through my computer jump drive yesterday, and it was like this video content that I was doing for clients like 6 years ago with my GoPro, wow. and so I went through the same coach, and I set a 3-year plan for what I wanted to do, and one of the 3-year things that I had, and the thinking that it's so far away. I've got a plan. I got to buy all the equipment. I got to do all these things. Like it's going to take me 3 years in order to achieve this. Mm-hmm. And once I put it down, what I wanted to do, all of a sudden the opportunities come open. Me and Kevin are working closely together. We vibe really well. We're having a lot of success with his content. And then he's like, I got a space and I've got the capital to make the investment to buy the stuff. Do you want to partner? And it's like, hell yes. Let's go.
Yes.
But if I wasn't clear on what I was doing for the longest time. Mm. I'm just doing these things. And I think anybody that's like, we can resonate. And it's like, there's a serious struggle there because it's like, I can make money doing this thing. I was consulting client. I was doing fractional sales leadership for clients. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I didn't hate it. I was good at it, but I would get so buried with it that it wasn't allowing me to do the things that I love to do that absolutely lit me up. And then also I was then not putting back time into business development. So when those client engagements that paid me really well ended, all of a sudden now I'm like starving, oh my God, where's the faucet and the water just got turned off. Right. And so it's like, I don't like doing this, but I've got all these things, this podcast, all these different things that are coming out there. How do I? So anyways, it strings together. Stop babbling about me.
No,
Joni, welcome.
I like hearing it. It's great,
I've gotten all this energy. I've been asking questions all day. And so I'm like, I'm pent up.
Tell me about you.
And I'm so glad you came all this way just to hear about me.
Of course. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. As long as the picture's there, I'm good. I
we can just promote it.
Talk about the book. We can talk about you.
So it's awesome, and I love often being able to get the chance to read books before I have the guests on. This didn't happen, but we did have an in-depth conversation, so I probably have a pretty good gist of what a lot of this is about. And so let's talk about it.
What would you like to know?
Yeah. So what inspired you to write the book?
So I wrote this book in the middle of the night when I was working at the hospital. In 2016, 2017, I was in the middle of the divorce, and about like 2:00 in the morning, there's not a lot of stuff happening. So, but I was in a really contentious divorce. Like, it was really rough. There were lots of rumors flying around about me. There's always rumors flying around about me. So I'm just going to I'm just going to write my story. And it started out as like little journal entries for me. And then they just kept having a theme. Like, everything that I was learning, not only of myself, the kind of mother that I wanted to be, the kind of kids I wanted to raise in the middle of divorce, what I wasn't going to allow to keep happening in my divorce, because I was getting divorced for a reason. I didn't want him to keep bullying me through it. Like, I was like, time out. You don't get my time, you don't get my space, you don't get my energy anymore. Like, that's the beauty of divorce. And so I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And when I went to go publish it, I reached out to a couple of friends who had already published books, and they told me essentially it wasn't going to happen. Like, I needed to have this big following. I needed to already be speaking. I needed to have this life that I wasn't living. Like, I was just a lonely bartender, housekeeper, working at a hospital. I have 4 jobs and raising 2 kids. So I was like, how am I going to do that? Like, there's just no way. So I put it on the back shelf, literally in my bathroom, in the top closet, and just started my life. And when I started my business, the relationship and communication coaching, I landed the first couple of clients, went through all of that, but same thing. I was like, okay, how do I keep getting more clients? And everyone told me, they're like, well, you need to publish a book. I was like, okay, well, I got one of those. And thankfully it had been, almost 9 years. I mean, 8 years. And the process was so much easier. Self-publishing is something that's huge. Everyone's doing that right now. You don't go through a publishing company. And I was able to reach out to a close friend who is the marketing person at a self-publishing company. And she said, this is what we offer, and this is how we'll get your book sold. And I was like, score. Okay, let's do it. And that was a year ago, like a year and 2 months ago. And here we are. I'm getting ready to go.
It's so cool because it's like one of those things, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Yeah. Like somebody tells you you're not experienced enough, you're not this enough, and then somebody tells you, well, you need a book before you do anything. And so you get these conflicting opinions from somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I want to tell some of these people to like F themselves, like just go write your book. And it worked out for you, right? And that's what a lot of times it's like the timing, because like the self-publishing and all this stuff worked out. But man.
Yeah. Like, I don't think, it all came down to now. There would have been no other way I would have been able to do this without, taking the time to put it on the back burner and building even more experiences, and even narrowing in on why it's so important to me now. Yeah. Like, before it was just, I had this story because I was going through a shitty divorce and I had a really, angsty situation, and I wanted to raise wonderfully healthy, loving kids. That's all I wanted. But now it's this whole story of just like, don't allow your story to define you. You are so much bigger than all that trauma, all that grief, all that pain that could literally sit on your shoulders and bury you. Or you can change it and you can become better, so much better than you ever imagined possible.
It's so huge, and people need to hear that.
I hope so.
You probably experienced it.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I just got done, speaking with someone else that I tried to reconcile a relationship with. And we just talked about the people that we have lost, mutual friends that we had lost, who had literally killed themselves in their grief. My ex-husband being one of them. And it's terrible. I don't want to see people like that. I was thinking about all the different topics that I hope, fingers crossed, I start to speak on. But I was like, if I'm up on stage and I'm asking people, who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? For me, I want to be kind. I want to be full of love. Like that's all I want to be remembered for, kindness and love. Some people want to be remembered for being brave. Some people want to be remembered for being resilient. I don't, but some people want to be, remembered for being successful, all these kind of things. But you don't find people like, oh yeah, I want to be remembered for being angry. Or I want to be remembered for being bitter or full of revenge. Nobody wants that as a personal goal in life, but they find themselves stuck because they just don't know how to let go of that grief, how to let go of that hurt and that pain that has just slowly started to define them.
And the crazy thing is it doesn't just go away, and it might feel like it does, but it's still underlying there, and it's driving so many behaviors and actions you don't even realize it. I hear people all the time say the things they don't want in life, but they're going and attracting that in abundance.
Yep. Yeah. And I think some of that is because people aren't willing to have those conversations with them.
Absolutely.
My kids, as they're watching me do this, as they're watching the social media attacks, they're watching the website attacks, they're watching personal attacks on my reputation and my character, they get angry in defense for me. Whereas, they're like, well, should we do this? Should we block so-and-so? Should we? And I'm like, no, that doesn't help. And, as I have been telling them, I forgive so-and-so, I forgive so-and-so. I tried to reach out to do this. They're like, why? I'm like, because the forgiveness, yes, is for them, but it's also for me.
Absolutely.
And if I were to die tomorrow, guys, I don't want you to hold bitterness for them because I want you to know that I didn't. And so you don't have to carry that flame for me because I don't have that flame. That flame's gone. And I would rather you be reminded every time you think of me of just how much I wanted to love people. And it's okay. It is okay.
It's one of those things like this stuff's happening to you on purpose. Just like set your example. And I don't want to say but it's like setting it's like you get put it on your plate because not only can you handle it, but you can then lead by example.
I don't want to do that anymore.
I know. I'm sorry to give you that burden, but it was just my observation.
I know. And it's true. I actually literally had a conversation in my new job that I'm at. We have a really young, manager who's learning, and I had the opportunity to react the way that they reacted. And I was just like, nope, put my phone over here. I'm like, I have to recognize that these aren't tests necessarily. They're just affirmations of who I want to be. I want to be someone who pauses. I want to be someone who stops to think and consider. And I want to be someone who can look at the other side of it and not be so self-involved that I can't stop and say, okay, wait a second. I need to see what's happening on the other side so we can have a better conversation, so that we can have a better relationship, so that we can grow as a team and therefore lead. That's why I think it's so important in business practice. I think, these desires of who we want to be has to be something that we bring in every aspect, regardless. And it's hard. It's so hard.
It's hard. I do this difference maker boot camp, and it's for entrepreneurs. I have one specifically for entrepreneurs and one that sales professionals can join into. And it works a lot on this communication, a lot on limiting beliefs, and it's crazy. It's like common sense. It's crazy how easy it can be, but it's like the emotions that like block us.
Yeah. 100%. And those limiting beliefs, that has been a tricky one. Like, how am I stopping myself by saying I can't be this person who's genuine or kind or authentic or full of love because I get stuck or, get stuck in that revenge mindset or that, that all of this is happening to me. I shouldn't be okay with forgiving someone. That's a limiting belief. Like, no, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me, unable to set boundaries. All it does is frees me from the stuff that will hold me back.
It's 5,000%. I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode or not, but I grew up with a very abusive dad, and he committed suicide at like 42, right? And so, but it's one of those things, like I, in my early 20s, was a mess, and I blamed my life on my circumstances and things that happened to me. I had all this anger inside for my dad that wasn't even alive anymore and couldn't feel that pain. And even if he could feel the pain, and this is like the one day, this like awakening of like this clarity that I had, and like talking this in my head of like, I have all this hate for this man and you can't even feel it.
Yeah.
And then worse yet, even if he could feel it, what does that do for me? Like, does that help my situation? No. I'm giving all this power away to this guy. And then as I'm like sitting and thinking about it, like really, like I'm not the victim. He's the victim. Like he literally ended his life, didn't get to see his grandkids, like didn't get to have a relationship with his kids, like, didn't think there was a way that he could change or there was a better life. Like he grew up a certain way and he thought that's to me incredibly sad. And then instantly I had a whole lot of forgiveness and I felt sorrow for him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now I'm not the victim. And that was the day that changed my whole entire life.
Yeah. I think recognizing that it makes me feel sad for them. And like even in the small things, I just recently bought a home, which was a big deal for us. And we were 4 hours away from closing on this home and the deal fell out. And it was just, there was just all this miscommunication. And as angry as I wanted to be, because my house was 90% packed up, like it was ready to go 4 hours from signing this thing. And all I just kept thinking was, I am so sorry for these people who are going to have to redo this whole thing again, restart the process. They're not going to get what they're looking for. And it just, like, I wanted to be so angry at the situation, but at the same time, I was like, damn, like, I'm so sorry for you. And, a month and a half later where they got no bites, no offers, nothing like that, they came back to the table with us. And it was like that life lesson. Wow. Like, I hope you learn something from that helps change you. Because for me, all I felt was just sorrow for you. Like, you didn't have to put yourself through that. You definitely didn't have to put us through that, but that's where that whole, like, this isn't about me right now. This is actually all about you. And I don't know how to help you. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm learning too, is I can't help everyone. Like, they make decisions and it's like, I mean, I could sit there and bang and bitch and be like, you dropped out of this, blah, blah, blah. Like, what's the point? Because it's not about me right now. What you're going through is what you're learning. And I can't help you.
Well, and what's crazy thing is you look at the flip side and it ended up working out for you in the sense that it came back. But imagine if you acted out in the way that you wanted to.
Right. It came back and I not only got I got the better deal out of it. Well, I mean, I don't know if I got the better deal out of it, but I got a better deal than I would have if I had stomped and, bitched and complained about it. Like, it worked out. And those lessons, like finding those nuggets in all of these lessons that keep coming through my life. One, it's exhausting. But two, I'm like, can't I just live my life now? Like,
I've learned enough.
I know. I've learned enough. I'm good. No. See,
I've even wrote a book on what I've learned.
Well, I'm jokingly writing my next book, and the title is "I'm the Problem. It's Me." Like, it's just, damn it.
The problem. So when you were putting together your coaching business, did you have thought of the book in mind?
No, because the original book, I don't know if you remember the original title, it was Surviving Divorce, Dating, and Dick Pics. So it was originally all about, 2016 and on. But when I brought this to the actual self-publishing company, who is more than just, Amazon, you just upload everything. I mean, they have walked me through from the very beginning, like reading my first draft, it's a content editor. So they're like, this is some of the stuff that you need to do. And they told me specifically, they're like, we need more context of why it was so important for you at your age. I was 36 when I got divorced. Why was it such a big deal for you to get a divorce? Like, what made this decision be so huge that you wrote a book about it? And so because of that, then I had to add in all the context. So then I brought in my history. I brought everything from my childhood to living with my abusive father, to living with my parents, to going to Bible college, to getting married, what that marriage looked like. And that context for the first third of the book is pretty dark, like really dark. And so doing that is where we came up with this title, just suddenly you feel broken. Like you feel broken when you're sleeping in your car because your ex-husband managed to get you kicked out of the house and you had nowhere to go. You had no friends, nothing like that. And you're just like, okay, when am I going to be better? When is life going to be better? And it did. It has. It's turned around. But yeah, putting all that context together really made a difference in the book.
So it's really cool because at first I was like, F those people that told you no. And again, it's like one of those things along the plan. Like, that's just me. But like, it's one of those things along the journey that it happened for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess all of it did. As I've been going through it, I went through my proof copy. What I would love to see this book become is a book club, staple, because my experience, my whole goal in sharing my life experience is not to, I figured it out. It's like, oh, wait a second. You're not the only one who's gone through this. Like, let's walk through this together. You might not make the same decisions as I have. Like for me, I want to always act out of kindness and love. Well, some person might want to act out of bravery. For them, it's a choice in being brave. Okay, how do we take your situation and how do we make sure you're finding the steps of bravery in this? So that's why, I would love to see this book become like a book club staple. Like we're going to talk about it. We're going to recognize these situations. What would you do? How would you do it? How do you feel in this situation? Where does that resonate in your life? Kind of thing.
That's awesome. It's powerful. Like getting groups together and like the transformational experience out of it.
Yes. That's my goal.
That is awesome. When does the book come out?
It launches October 7th. So its pre-orders are up now. It launches October 7th, and then I'm doing a book release party October 13th, which of course I will invite you.
I'm super excited.
Better be there.
Absolutely, I'll be there. Where's it at?
Yeah, it's at Dixboro Project.
Okay.
Yeah, on Plymouth Road in Dixboro.
Nice. So there's, and it's like when anybody's doing something great, there's always like a pushback and it sounds like you're getting kind of that pushback going through this experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I could have my guesses. I could make assumptions. Maybe it's just weird timing, but we were getting ready to have our marketing plan. There's a lot of different things, different avenues, print, podcasts, obviously, libraries, bookstores, and then the big one was my social media and website. And within the last month, not even month, like the last 2.5, 3 weeks, both have been under severe attack, and to the point where my social media is currently shut down, and I'm fighting to get it back. I will have to, and I'm just, it's hard because at any given moment I get great news. Like this morning they sent me, they're like, your book reviews are ready. You can go ahead and send this link to your people. And I was like, yes. And then I'll get another one. It's like, oh, well, this has been reset. You've been locked out of this. And I'm like, awesome. Awesome. I had like a week and a half ago, my website got attacked by a whole bunch of bots. The most views I had 3,500 in a 12-hour span. And it to the point where they locked down my account. They're like, there's suspicious behavior. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm watching it. I'm watching my things. I'm getting alerts. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. And so between that, my social media, I'm just, I feel like I don't want to be the person that waits for the other shoe to drop, because then you're paranoid.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I don't want to see happen. I want to hold on to the good, and the bad will find its way out. At the end of the day, I could either hold on to the bad and bitch and complain and be stressed out of my life, or I can hold on to the good and the bad will suss out and pivot. I have learned the art of pivoting, even with the marketing team. I'm like, all right, guys, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we just always come back. We're going to pivot. I'm going to pivot, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to stop with this project. It's important to me. It continues to be more important every time I come up against a wall, because I'm like,
yeah,
okay, guys, all you're doing is just making me more passionate about getting my story out there. More passionate about helping people, because even if this is intentional, and I don't know that it is, but if it is, then that's not the person that I want to be. And that is the exact person I want to reach. Like, if your intention is to tear someone down, what's going on, buddy?
Absolutely.
Like, how can I help you?
Yep.
Like, what hurt do you need to let go? Because do you want to live like that? Do you want to live satisfied by someone else's troubles? Come on. All that's going to do is kill you.
Well, and you were talking about earlier and like holding the resentment and not having the communication. And it reminds me of like the two wolves story. You know, have you heard that? Inside us lies two wolves. One is obedient, patient, you know, all the good things. The other one is like angry, domineering, resentful, like all. And so this grandpa is telling this little boy about two wolves. And the little boy asks the grandpa, like, well, who you know, which one wins? And it was like the one that you feed.
Yes.
And so if you're sitting there and you're holding all that stuff in and you're like collecting all this stuff, guess which way you see the world.
Yeah, exactly. And what I think is hard is, you can get a big crowd with you when you're feeding that angry and bitter and revenge wolf. You know, all of a sudden, it's that crowd mentality, mob mentality. Yeah, you get that for a little bit.
It feels good for a second.
Of course. But then everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm done. You know, like, aren't you kind of done being angry all the time? Aren't you kind of done being bitter all the time? Like, you slowly start to lose that support. And, you're just left with this lonely angriness. And actually, I was thinking about this morning. I'm trying to be more proactive in writing my blog because I don't have anything else to do right now. But
no social media to go to.
Like, it's been really weird.
I was like, what do you do? Oh my God.
I just, knock on wood, LinkedIn. So feeling. But I was thinking about that song, This Little Light of Mine, like just I remember being a little girl and thinking about how amazing that song was. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And just in the darkness, just knowing that you're sitting there in the complete darkness and all you have is this little light. And instead of letting the darkness get rid of it, I'm just going to let it shine. And that is literally all I can do. And hopefully the day comes, the sun shines again, and everything's beautiful. But if not, then I'm just going to let my light shine because I don't want to succumb to that darkness. I just don't.
And it sucks. And I said this, but it's like one of those things, like, it's almost even your mission in the book and all this stuff. It's it's testing you.
Oh, I know.
Are you eating your own pudding, Joni? Are you?
It's a good thing I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're becoming an expert at it, right? But again, it sucks to go through, but then when you can kind of shift and look at even the example that you're setting for your kids, like how much generational that's gonna impact.
Well, and that's what I hope. I hope at the end of the day, like I know it didn't happen with my ex-husband, but I hope that whatever, anger hopefully passes. I mean, I know that sometimes for someone who is so stuck in their anger, they can never really see that light. That little light that is trying to shine through, they refuse to see it. But some people end up seeing it and they're like, okay, maybe I was in the wrong. Maybe I didn't listen to the conversation. They can, come back and be like, well, she's fake as fuck. I mean, sure, if you want to call me that, I don't know what to tell you, but there's always that personality that may stick to it and stick to their guns because that's who my ex-husband was. But I'll stick to mine just as much.
And that's the thing is, hopefully, knock on wood, like if any attacks, like it's not relentless to the point because like how much can someone like sit and do that versus like often they move on because
one would hope. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, all I've ever wanted to do is sit with a person, like I would love to be on stage. I would love to be able to share my stories and give hope and shine a light and do all of that. But if I only sit in the back row with all the people that don't feel worthy of being up front or being in the same room with these people, if I can sit back there with them, hold their hand, love on them, and tell them you are worthy, you can do this. It might be hard. You're going to be tested time and time and time again, and tested in so many ways, like from with your kids to your relationships to your work to your personal inner talk, your self-talk, because you can be really mean to yourself too. You're going to be tested and tested and tested and tested and tested, but you can do this. And it's hard, but it'll be so much worth it. It'll be so worth it in the end, just being able to live with yourself and lay your head down on the pillow and be like, okay, well, today was tough, but I made it through, and I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of the example that I showed. And my kids may not like it, because they want me to fight. They do. And I get it. Yeah. Like, guys, I get it. But we saw what happened when someone wanted to fight. It killed them in the end. That's not who I want to be.
I was reading the description of the book, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited to read this. Like, so what would somebody expect picking this up?
That is the hard thing. You should definitely, you need to read the epilogue or the prologue, because it's really good. But it's more about finding yourself. Like I was told my entire life that this is who I was supposed to be up until I was 36 years old. Like you needed to be this to receive this, unconditional love came if you met my expectations. Like that. Exactly. Like it was like, really?
I love you unconditionally. You were like,
you do.
How this works.
Oh, well, and what is even really funny is I even test the Christian theory of unconditional love. You receive God's unconditional love if you accept his salvation. Well, wait a second. That's God's unconditional love is there. Yeah, that's a condition. It's there. And it's really, you really kind of have to sit and think with that for a little bit of like, oh, well, wait a second. Like, what does that mean? And I'm not a theologist by any means, but like we put conditions on all of it. We just do. And some of that is what we grew up with. And I spent my entire life looking for unconditional love, but was only ever met with conditions that I never met. I was always short. I was never hit the bar. And that was really hard. Still really hard for me. 100%. Like I struggle. I'm a very insecure person. And so I want people to read this, recognize that you get to love yourself first. You get to choose who you want to be it, and then love yourself for it. Like, I feel like that's maybe the summary. I don't know. There's just so many parts to the book. It's hard.
It's huge. And, and again, going back to that, understanding who you are and being aware, because a lot of times we'll pin our happiness on something else, either a person or an object. When we get that thing, that house, that car, when we're in that relationship, then we'll be happy and we'll have, life will be good. And what is success? And I think that, it's impossible to be really successful in a relationship or a job or anything if you don't understand you to that degree of what makes you happy, what makes you sad, who are you supposed to be, like where do you light up, and to understand that, because if not, you're living on somebody else's expectations.
Yes.
And then as you're saying that, it's like it's setting you up for failure and causing these back end traumas and problems.
Well, and just I think you stop believing in the power of love or kindness or authenticity. You stop believing in that because you just don't know who you are. And I would rather know who I am. And if people don't appreciate my weirdness or my, I think a lot of not a lot, but I think it's hard to imagine someone going through everything that I go through and I still believe in love. I still believe in kindness. I still believe in being genuine and authentic, even though I'm still missing parts of my life that I've spent chasing. Like I've been chasing love and yes, I have it, but I don't have someone who's loved me unconditionally yet. And I think, it's easy to give up in those things that you really want to believe in. And I just don't want to yet. Like, I just don't. Like, if it's who I am, then that's who I want to be with my dying breath.
5,000%. I had this client I worked with, and he would come to me and he would talk about how he was spending all this time with this friend group that he'd been friends with since high school. And he was like talking about how he just felt like he was just wasting time, it brought him an incredible amount of sadness. And as we dove into it, it was because when he was around those people, when he was in high school, he was a state champion wrestler, he was a football player, he was this jock, and everybody looked at him as a certain way. And inside, this guy's all about mindfulness and yoga and art and completely different than the guy that everybody thought he was.
Yeah.
And so, but he felt like in order to be liked by these people that were his friends forever, that he had to be high school version of him, or what everybody thought he was. He's always that guy. He just people told him you had to be a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he's sitting and he's talking about how, he can't leave these relationships because these people, they've been friends with him, he's been friends forever, but he also can't show them who he really is. And I'm like, what if you did? What if you came to the party and you were you, and they were like, who's this? and they don't want to be around you. Like, is it worth being around those people? Mm-hmm. Like, we only get one life, and to sit and spend all your time trying to be around one group of person, it reminds me of the claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This is one of my favorite analogies of putting on that fake nose. Mm-hmm. And when he puts on that nose, he's like, I'm uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And for the years, it's always my favorite movie at Christmas time. And I always thought, man, those little asshole reindeer, right? They're look how they treated Rudolph. His nose popped off and everybody hated on him. But then I had this epiphany a couple months ago. And I was thinking about what happens when you show up and you try to be somebody else?
Yeah.
And you set up this it's like you're lying, right? And you set up this expectation of this is who you are, and then people find out that is not who you are. They feel like they've been bamboozled. They feel a certain way about you. And so I'm like, wow, he tried to show up to be somebody else. I don't know what would have happened if he would have came red nose blazing. Chances are he would have been made fun of anyways. Little assholes. But, the fact of the matter is he tried to be somebody else, and then when they found out he was a fraud, they were like, they brought the rain on him, right? Mm-hmm. Literally. And so it's just embrace who you are, because at the end of the day, who he was lit up the damn skies, right? They were able to fly through and save Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And I believe that's what you're here to, not to save Christmas, but it's you have a purpose for being here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think at the end of the day, why would you want to spend your life trying to be something that you're not and still not getting what you want in life?
That's exactly it.
If you want authentic and genuine relationships, but you're being fake to get those authentic and genuine relationships, you're not getting authentic, genuine relationships.
We've all seen the movies. These relationships blow up when they find out you're the other person.
Exactly.
Right?
and then at the end of the day, it's not about... It's about their expectation on you. Why did they have that expectation on you? Why did they need you to show up this way?
Yeah.
That's on them. If they needed you to show up as, I don't know, knight in shining armor or a class clown to always make them happy, then what is it in their life that they're not dealing with, that they put that need on you? That's not you. Be who you are.
And that's hard. A problem I encounter is I have this positivity all the time, and I'm like, this is just me. It's not I've got this energy and this positivity to when I go through, because I am human and I have my bad mood, or the people around me, especially family or whatever, is whoa. Yeah. What happened to you? What happened to you? And all of a sudden it's now you can't be that way, because now you're bringing down the room. When I'm bringing up the level so high all the time, it's that I've put myself in this hole of I've got to be this even when I'm not. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I burnt myself out trying to do that.
I actually had that recently happen, and my kids are really good about it. They recognize my face, like if something's coming up, they know. But at work, I'm still new to that work environment that it just kind of took everyone by surprise, and I just needed time. Like I'm a writer, I needed to write. I need to get my feelings out. Like if my presence changes, it's not that I'm not going to work through it. And I think that that's where I want people to recognize, listen, I know I'm in a bad mood but I'm going to work through it. My promise to you, if you accept me for who I am, I promise you I will work through it. And either you and I will have a conversation and our relationship will elevate, or I'll recognize that this was on me and I'll do the work myself, but that's like my promise to them. Like, you accept me for who I am. I have great days and I have really bad days where I can't get out of bed. And it doesn't mean that I'm always going to be one or the other. It just means I promise you I will continue to grow. And that has been my promise to the kids, and I'm slowly working it into my relationships.
It's that surface level, and we're superficial to that surface level. And sometimes we got to go those layers deep, and even that controversy or that friction causes growth. And if we avoid it, and we talk about resentment, we avoid essential communication. We're holding that inside, and then it starts shaping and changing the way we see somebody.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's hard because then when you go below that, you have to share where you're at. Like, you have to share either I was scared, I was angry, I was hurt, I was projecting, like getting below that surface and that growth, it comes with a lot of vulnerability and accountability. That's the other thing too, is being vulnerable and then accountable.
Which part do you think is harder?
I think depending on the space, vulnerability is harder. I think accountability you can do because that's your personal responsibility. That's, self-awareness, that's emotional intelligence, being accountable. If you were to, you had a shitty day and you acted inappropriately, the accountable act would be to apologize. The vulnerability would be to explain why. And accountability is a little bit easier because, I accept responsibility. They may not fully understand why because you weren't vulnerable. And then I think I think vulnerability is just so much more difficult. You really have to have a trusted relationship.
Yeah, it's going past those levels is when it's I love it when I have a client come in and they're crying and they start apologizing, and I'm like, no, like this isn't a good session until you've cried. We're not hitting and understanding really who you are until you get to this level. And that's when I know we've at least started to uncover the surface, because if you're coming through this calmly, I had this guy when I first started my business, there's this guy I met and he's incredible. He's a great guy, but I was literally going through a hard time. I just started my business. I was 6 months into my business. I was struggling because I was trying to build it. My grandma just passed away. My wife lost her job. All these different things were going on. And I sit next to this guy at a motivational speaking event. And the speaker said, introduce yourself to the person next to you and tell them what you want to achieve in life. And this guy tells me I want to be a motivational speaker. I'm like, oh, super awesome. Tell me more about that. He's like, well, a couple months ago, my ex murdered my 2 children and then committed suicide. And I was like, holy shit, really? Like 6-year-old daughter, 3-year-old son, killed them and then killed herself. Yeah. 2 months before I met him. And I'm like, he's telling me, and he's like this story and how, their death can't go in vain. And he's had this vision of keeping their life alive by sharing and, and helping people with depression and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty phenomenal.
Right.
Meantime, it was a message for me, wow, life isn't so hard, And it was inspiring. But anyway, so I built a relationship with this guy, the long story short of it, and he wanted to be a speaker. And so I was coaching him through it. And he would get up and he'd tell a story and he would tell it with no emotion. And I'm like, he'd write his stuff down maniacally. Like he wrote down, he'd have 7 pages that he'd bring with him, and he would read off of it. And I'm like, dude, like you gotta open. This is your story, like you gotta loosen up and tell this story. And he's like, well, if I tell the story and I'm like, really in it, I'm not going to be able to hold it together. And I'm like, good. Because honestly, I'm like, are you crazy? Are you the one that murdered your kids? Like, are you, what's going on? Like, how can you tell this story? I'm crying over here just even thinking about the story.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting here, lived through it 3 months ago, and you're able to hold yourself together. If I'm in the audience, I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? I want to see you cry. I'm going to pull in even more and like feel the value of what you're doing. You've got to pull me into that vulnerability, or your message is nothing. Your message is the vulnerability.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's hard though.
It's so hard.
I've done, 230 episodes of the podcast, right? And like the stories that people don't want to tell are the ones that I'm like, nope, you're not going to be on unless we dive into this area here, you know?
And that's the one, like, so my book opens up, and this was the hardest story to write because I still wear the scars on it. I'll just read it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The small kitchen was alive with the scent of freshly baked bread and the soft strumming of my father's guitar as he played classic hymns. I was 4 years old, excitedly helping my mom set the table for my grandmother's visit. It made me feel important, like a big girl, as I carefully arranged the plates and napkins, taking the task very seriously. On the counter, the tea kettle began to whisper, its shrill sound signaling that the water was ready. In my eagerness to help, I reached up to grab the teapot my mom had just filled. The next moment happened so fast it felt like a blur. My small hand slipped and the boiling water splashed onto my upper right arm. The pain hit instantly, sharp and searing. I screamed, the sound piercing the warm, peaceful atmosphere of the kitchen. My mom was at my side in an instant, her face pale with panic as she saw the red, angry burns already blistering on my arm. We need to take her to the hospital now, she yelled, toward with urgency. My father, still sitting and strumming his guitar, looked up. His expression was calm, almost indifferent, as he glanced at my arm. We don't need to go to the hospital, he said, his voice firm and unyielding. She'll be fine. We just need to pray for her healing. Please, my mom pleaded, her voice cracking as tears welled in her eyes. She is in so much pain. Look at her. He ignored her. Instead, he walked over to me, his towering presence making my little body feel even smaller. He grabbed my arm roughly, and I cried out, the pain shooting through me like fire. Stop crying, he said sternly, his grip unrelenting as he began to pray. The words blurred together as the pain intensified. Then, to my horror, he started peeling away the blisters forming on my arm. The agony was unbearable, and I screamed louder, my small voice hoarse with the sound. My mom tried to stop him, tears streaming down her face, but he was so strong. She pleaded and begged, but he wouldn't let go, convinced that prayer was the only intervention I needed. The front door opened and my grandmother stepped inside. Her sharp gasp cut through the chaos. What on earth are you doing? Stop this right now. She didn't hesitate. Pushing him firmly aside, she scooped me up in her arms. Her touch was gentle, her voice steady as she soothed me. We are taking her to the hospital now. For a moment, my father looked like he might argue, but the unwavering strength of my grandmother's gaze stopped him. He muttered something under his breath, but he didn't move to stop her as she carried me out the door. My tears didn't stop right away, but in her arms I finally felt a flicker of safety, knowing someone was willing to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself. Now, 40-odd years later, I still carry the scars from someone else's negligence, the scars of someone's fanatical beliefs that would cause a screaming child even more pain, the scars of someone who claimed to love me but taught me what suffering was truly like, the scars of a life I believed would only find fulfillment if I was everything I should be. These scars could easily keep me separated from others. They're not pretty. They are a reminder of the potential ugliness within a person's heart. I want the ugliness of these scars to be the driving force for showing love to everyone I know, to show kindness in the midst of hate, to show compassion in the midst of abhorrence, to show empathy in the midst of animosity. We all have relational scars. Some are more visible than others. How you let them affect you is in your hands. So I do. I still have my scars. I have them all right here. They've never gone away.
That's powerful.
Thanks.
And again, it comes down to those stories and those experiences, and there's somebody there that needs to read this book.
I hope so. I really do. I really do.
powerful when you have the scars, and again, they're there, like
Yeah.
they're that everyday reminder.
I remember every time I had to explain them to my kids, for the longest time. And I remember the first time my son ever saw them, he was like, "What is that?" And I'd have to explain it. And he'd ask me a couple more times. But, after a while, they start to just recognize it's part of who you are. And yeah, you always have to explain them. And sometimes, like I actually had a friend, she pre-read my book and she thought these were actually from the fire that when my house burned down. And I was like, no, these have been with me for a lifetime.
Wow. That's 4 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. And to have like such, in-depth memories, like core memories.
Yes. It's one of those things I can close my eyes and still see it when it just came down. Yeah.
So I think what, again, is another incredible, powerful part is like, your kids probably can't even imagine that.
God, I hope not. No. Yeah.
And you talked about like having an abusive dad, and and it reminds me, like there was several years ago, there was a neighbor kid that would always come over to our house, and he was friends with my son. And one day they were sitting in the living room playing video games, and the kid started telling, like innocently, he didn't really even realize what he was saying about how his mom's boyfriend would hit him. Oh. And he's like talking about this experience, and my son's like sitting there like, like. That happens, and like, I felt like incredibly sad for him, but then I was like, I'm so happy because I can remember it, yeah. I can very graphically remember the beatings that I would take from my dad. And so for my son to never know that is, we're doing our work.
I wish. I know my daughter doesn't, but my son, he went through more than I ever wish he had. And that's part of the next book too, is, I thought having that space would be enough, but I didn't prepare them for the psychological damage and where Ashton felt the need to protect his sister. And he took the brunt of everything my ex-husband did to him. Like, she was the golden child, and he was just so terrible to my son. And yes, not to this level, but to enough where for a while I couldn't hug my son. Like, you could go up and like wrap your arms around your kids. I couldn't do that with my son. I'd come and he'd like turn and swing, and I was like, holy shit, like what the hell happened to you? And he doesn't even really remember all of it right now. Thank God. But we know it's back there. We know it's like back there in the back of his mind. Like, and he would tell me, he was like, yeah, everyone's like that. And like, no, that is not normal, honey. That is not okay. Most parents can come hug their kids without their kids wanting to take a swing at them. And that part breaks me in so many ways. Like, just to know that there's some hidden trauma back there that I thought I protected by getting a divorce, but I didn't do enough.
It's one of those things, though, and don't blame yourself. It's like I had my mom on for my 200th episode, and when I was 12, my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said, just find a way to get out of here, because the violence was like I when you talked about your son, I lived that. I was the oldest one. I always I was the protector of my mom. Like when my mom was getting beat, I would throw myself in. Like, so he hated me. My brother was the golden child, and so I got that treatment, and so, yeah. And it was getting worse, and so she ended up leaving. But it's like one of those things in like retrospective. When you're a kid, you think your parents have it all figured out. Like, you get a book, and you're just, like you never think as a kid. Like, my mom has no clue what she's doing, on a daily basis, and I'm not going to either. When I have a kid, like it doesn't. You just don't get downloaded with, okay, this is what happens next, and this is how you parent, and this is how you protect your kids from your things. And so, like, as we look at like just. I'm a big fan. I think this happens, but you are a proponent of your parents, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, your parents make who you are. In you can take it and turn it around and help other people based off of the experiences that you've experienced, or you can become resentful. And you you can become like your mom or your dad, or,
Yeah.
my wife grew up with a best friend that her mom was never there, was a drug addict, would always break their hearts and never show up. And then they became just like her and had their kids taken away from them and repeated the cycle, even though they went through that same exact pain. They just followed their cycle. And so to be able to break that cycle is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think my mom did a really good job of breaking that cycle. She got out, but for her childhood abuse, she got out of the marriage with my father, but then she had a whole different set of problems that showed up. And it's actually in the book so for me to continue this, self-discovery of my ability to look for, not ability, my desire to find unconditional love, trying to meet these expectations. She broke the cycle of abuse, but it brought new problems, and so that's what, for me, I'm like, okay, we broke the cycle of abuse, but what new problems am I bringing to you?
And we never know. That's the thing.
What new therapies are you going to need? What have I done this time? I don't know. To be fair, honestly, I think the biggest thing that they struggle with me in particular is that I do let too much go. They do not understand it. And I don't know how to explain it to them because, I don't want to be a pushover. I don't want my desire to love and forgive people to make it seem like I'm a pushover. I want them to recognize that I don't want to die an angry person. Will I let some of these people back in my life? Well, with change, why not? Why not? Because it worked. It worked with my father. But then, because he had changed and we had conversations when I needed to stand up and establish boundaries and he didn't want to follow those, then I was able to let him go without being bitter, without being angry. Same with my parents, that we had a falling out. And with change for both of us, because we both grew, we were able to reconcile that relationship. I had another falling out with a different person, and with change, we have, become great friends. So with change, anything is possible.
Yep.
But if they're not willing to change, then I know that I can set a boundary. And I would rather see relationships restored through change and awareness and emotional intelligence and forgiveness than just to say, well, fuck them. They're never going to change. Because that limits them.
Yep.
That maybe they need someone to believe in them. I believe that you can change. I believe in your character and your strength and who you want to be. You just need someone that's going to say, okay, I'll give you these chances, but I'm going to do it in this boundary. And you'll miss out on the love that I have to offer. I'm not going to miss out on it.
Yeah.
But I have full confidence. I have full love. I have full support. I will give you the chance. And if you choose not to take it, if you choose to fuck it up again, that's on you.
Yep.
And I can lay my head down at night and say, I tried. I really did.
And that's all you can do. And again, it's coming down to it that some people just don't want to change, and that's fine. And that's their priority. They don't need to change because you want them to change. Like if that's who they truly are, go be an asshole. Like I don't know, like go live your life because that's like that. Then there absolutely are.
Yeah,
there absolutely are people like that. That this is the way they are. I do believe that most people are doing the best with what they know how and what they can. It's all shaped on their experiences. And some people have went through the lives that you and I have went through, or the childhoods you and I have went through, and they haven't learned some of the processes that you went through to learn how to communicate better, to learn how to process these relationships, to forgive, and so they respond to ways unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, like if I hadn't forgiven my mom and my stepfather for the horrific things that they had done, like not physically, but like just terrible stuff. If I hadn't forgiven them, then my kids would have lost out on the relationship with their grandparents. Like I think to recognize that the choices to hold on to that hate and hold on to unforgiveness is so much bigger than we could ever imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're instilling, I'm instilling generational love and grace and empathy and forgiveness instead of generational hate. And, because if I hadn't shown them how to do that, what happens if me and my kids get in a fight later in life? Or what happens if they get in a fight and they never come back together? I haven't taught them anything. I've actually failed in everything that I've ever wanted to do. So I'm hoping that those lessons, well, they may not recognize it now, because they're watching people be so mean to me and so hateful. I hope that they recognize that it's taking all of these little lessons and putting them together when it really counts, when you really need it, when you're fighting with your spouse or you're trying to figure out, should I stay or should I go? When your kids are being assholes, should I stay or should I go? How do I talk to them? I hope that they learn these lessons through it. No.
Have they read the book?
No. I let them read the prologue and the epilogue. The epilogue's so good too. I love it. But it sounds like it's really bad about my ex-husband. My ex-husband's probably only in there for 3 chapters. It's actually kind of worse for my parents. I'm sorry guys, love you. We reconciled, but I mean both my parents are passed. So, and then the rest of it is all about the dating. But, they have enough bad memories of their father. They don't need to know what our marriage was really like.
Yeah. Yep.
If they have any kind of romantic notions that we were this beautiful family, which I don't think that they do, they definitely wouldn't after that. And so I've told them, and, I'm obviously you're more than welcome to, but let's hold on to the few good memories that you have, and let's not make the bad ones even worse.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, I don't want them to have that for him.
So, what's your goal in the next year? So the book comes out in October. We talked a little bit beforehand before you got on cameras about speaking and stuff like that. Tell me more about that.
I would love to speak. I would love to just do relationship speaking either in the companies. It's always hard for people to understand why I think relationships are so important, especially in the business practice. But I think, like I've said all the time, relationships are everywhere. If you don't learn how to work through them with your best friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, your parents, your kids, you're always going to struggle. So I would love to just be able to focus on emotional intelligence. What does that look like? How does that flesh out in every situation that you're going through? How you see the world? What lenses are you wearing? I could be a real bitch after everything I've gone through. I could be, and I can. I mean, it's not like it's not within me to do.
Yeah.
I just choose not to because that's not who I want to be. But so I would love to see a series of books because, this is obviously where I decided to change my feathers, this whole Phoenix thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Going through the fire and then being reborn. How do I want to live? And after every rebirth, what does that look like? And then, this goes up to about 2017 was when I finished writing this one. Well, then I started book 2. I'm the problem. And that's where, because I really enjoyed my singleness. I really enjoyed, learning who I was and who I wanted to be and who I wanted my kids to learn learn who their mom was. But then on the other side, I was making a lot of choices, not that were bad, but I was like, I'm not liking this version of me either. Suddenly my desire to be kind of everything to everyone brought a lot of bad people into my life, unfortunately. And that was I let them stay too long. My ex-boyfriend, he lived with me for 10 months and I should never have let him live with me at all. But I had this thing in my mind. And even then I was still really into faith. And I just felt like, God had told me, I'm going to use you to show him what true love looked like. To come to find out, true love was him getting a dog. Like that was literally all he was capable of. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I was like, okay, we're gonna raise these kids together. We may have a kid of our own because in that time I had gotten pregnant and we had miscarriage. And, I kept romanticizing what I thought was my mission in this relationship. Literally all he needed was his emotional support dog. And I got him his emotional support dog, and he's living his best life. I'm like, all right, well, maybe marriage and family and kids aren't for everyone, and maybe all you really need to find the love that you're looking for in life is a dog. And so, but it was my fault. Like, I just, I let him move in and I let him take over, and I thought so I was the problem.
That's huge in itself. And again, we've talked about this, and it's that level of accountability. And I asked that, that's kind of a trick question, that what's harder, accountability or vulnerability? Yeah. Because they're both so hard. And I think it takes vulnerability to be truly accountable because you got to look in the mirror and say, I am the problem. It is me. You can't blame anybody else. I blamed my dad for years. Well, my dad isn't alive and he's not making the decisions that I'm making. Yeah. Right? He's not creating the life that I'm living right now. Like, he has no influence other than what he did to me psychologically that's causing me to make decisions that I'm making. But I have control over that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I see so many relationships where they're like, oh, they don't want to go home. They hate going home, and they're in this miserable relationship. They don't feel loved. They don't feel supported. They don't feel seen, but they keep going back to it. And I'm like, at what point do you become accountable to the environment that you continue to put yourself into?
5,000%.
And again, I saw this even in my professional career. I was working at Weber's Restaurant, and they're a great family, great place to work. And they let me go suddenly. And, it pushed me into a new role where I get to do everything that I've ever wanted to do. And I was like, I could be either super bitter about the fact that they let me go short notice, and all of a sudden I'm like, or I could be like, I stayed too long. I stayed too long. Yep. And I know that I did, because I know that they were starting to ask me questions about like, okay, well, what's your 5-10-year plan? These are the things that we're wanting you to, if they wanted me to master latte art. I cannot get that stupid steam milk.
Oh my God, I'd never be able to do it.
Oh my God, I just can't. But that wasn't my passion. And I was getting frustrated and angry that like everything that I want to do for relationships and the work culture, I wasn't able to do, but I kept going to work every day. And I kept being like, okay, I'm going to master that latte art because that's what you're asking me to do.
I'll be the best damn latte artist ever.
I'm going to do it. Again, trying to reach these expectations. But I was part of the problem. I stayed. And even though I had all these visions and hopes and the book was coming and I'm working on it, I continued to stay in an environment that I knew was not setting me up for success. Now, this new place that I'm working at, I mean, they are fantastic. They give me opportunities to work with the team, to help build their culture, to really invest in, what emotional intelligence looks like, what psychological safety looks like, what accountability looks like. And it's everything that I have ever said I wanted to go into a company and do. I'm literally doing it right now. And so, that's going, awesome. Here I was, I wasn't stuck. I let myself be stuck. I was the problem.
Have you ever read the book, The Alchemist?
No, but we talked about this the last time.
I'm like, I probably asked you the last time. This is one of my favorite questions ever. It just merged. But it's because I think every entrepreneur should read this book. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly this. Like, when you go and you pursue your personal legend, like your purpose you're put on this earth for, like the universe conspires to give you what you're looking for. And if you ever notice, like when you start something, all of a sudden you get like beginner's luck.
Yeah.
That's momentum, right? But a lot of us will like stop. And like the momentum stops rolling. And then we're trying to build it back up again, And so it's like you look through this series, that whole book is about entrepreneurship. I see it, but it's like this whole thing of like you were put here on this earth for a purpose and for a vision. And honestly, most people will give up on those dreams because it's superficial. And like in the book, there's a good example. I did a whole episode by the way, just breaking down this book. Like that's how important. It's so cool. But there's this part where this guy, and I always looked at him as like whether it's God or Jesus. This shepherd boy meets in this. Here's the basis of the book. This shepherd boy is the main character. He's a shepherd. He herds sheep right across the land. The reason why he became a shepherd is because he set a dream and a goal to travel. And so he's looking inside the box of things because this is real life, right? Like we can be a fireman, a nurse, a teacher, a professional athlete. You know, like if you think about all the things you can be as a kid, you're inside this box of corporate America. I want to be a psychologist or a journalist. I didn't become either of those things. It took too long to go to school for psychology, and I got good at sales in the meantime of trying to do journalism. And so like this whole entire process, now look what I'm doing. I spend most of my time working with people through their mental stuff. And I'm doing this constant content that's turned into me interviewing amazing people and having conversations. And I would have been interviewing professional athletes, but it's come around that I've went outside of this box.
Yeah.
I've busted the four walls and I've created my own way of doing it. And I'm happier, I believe, than what I would have been sitting on a couch being a psychologist, and going that whole route of like 8 years of school or whatever it would have took.
Oh my gosh, I know.
But so like he is a shepherd boy, he becomes a shepherd and he's perfectly content, happy with his life. But one day he has this dream that he needs to go to Egypt because his personal legend is there. He needs to go, and this dream doesn't stop coming. Every night he has this dream and it's getting more intense, more intense, more intense. And then he runs into this guy in the market and the guy knows his life and tells him most people give up on their dreams. And he was like, look at that guy over there. He's a baker. And he was like, he became a baker because he wanted to travel too. He's like, well, bakers don't travel. He's like, yeah, precisely. He's like, bakers don't travel. See, he thought that he needed, in order to travel, he needed to make a certain amount of money. He needed to have a certain life before he could ever go and pursue his dreams. And so he became a baker. And so now he's trapped. He's got a business that he's got to run. He's got to do these things. If he stops selling, he's not making any money. And guess what? He'll get to travel one month out of his whole entire life. He'll like travel this and he'll like, that's his vacation and he'll travel. And the shepherd boy said, well, why didn't he become a shepherd? And he was like, good question. He considered that, but guess what? It's more honorable to be a baker than a shepherd. And so he looked at how would people view me? What did people want me to become? Well, it's more prestige to be a baker, like I'll have more. So he didn't become that because, how people would look at him. And then one day the dream just stopped coming and he just was content with his life. You've got to go and put yourself out there and walk in the danger, walk in the uncomfort. And once you make that decision to do that, it's just that, it's the decision.
Yeah.
But it opens it up to experiences, and they're good experiences. They're horrible experiences. And some of them I asked you, how's it going? You're like, there's exciting stuff. A book's coming out, right? There's all these amazing things that are going on and this difference that you're making, but then there's a lot of adversity and challenges and obstacles that are coming your way. And the first thing I said, and you said, that unfortunately so many people tell you this, is like, you're going through it for a reason. Like you're the messenger. Like you gotta it sucks. But this is the thing. And at the end of I'll spoil the end of the book. Not really, because there's so much that goes into it. He realizes that all this stuff that he went through made him such a stronger person. And he had this decision of like, do I go back and be a shepherd or do I continue? And he was like, wow, I'd be so bored being a shepherd now. He's like, I used to be so content being this thing. He was like, there's so much more to life. And I figured this out. And it's like, I would never go back to here.
Right. Not a lot of people find that.
Not a lot of people find that at all. Because you cave into what other people want you to be.
Yes.
That's a big
exactly
thing.
What I was going to that. And there's one story. I tell a lot of stories from the guys that I dated or friends that I worked with, because when I got out of the bubble of the marriage, I didn't realize how many people were miserable, like how many relationships were miserable. And one of the guys that I absolutely treasured, he had reached out to me because we had worked together at a church for a while. And when he found out I was getting a divorce, like everyone knew, it was a big gossip. And he just was asking me how I got to that point, and I was telling him, and he started sharing. He was really excited because he was finally stepping away from this marriage that he had been wanting to get out of for almost 12 years. Just a really long time. I was at 15 years with mine, so he was at like 12, and he had bought the home for him and his kids. His wife was supposed to go move in with her mom, and I would come over, I would, help. I was encouraging him, and but they hadn't told anyone yet. And as soon as his parents found out, they stopped it right away. They stopped it. I stopped hearing from him. I was like, what is going on? Didn't know what was going on. And he texted me and he was like, yeah, I've just been in bed the last couple of days. My parents, like, they just totally invaded. And yeah, he never got a divorce. She moved back in. They're, I assume, still together to this day. I've heard rumblings. But, just he's miserable, and he, instead of that excitement, that joy of starting a life that he's always wanted, left.
You only have one life.
Yeah.
And if you're living it for somebody else, it's nothing but regret and resentment there. And man, I feel so sad for somebody doing that, because again, it could end abruptly, and then you sitting there with all that regret, like you didn't live your life.
You didn't. And then all you're doing is still looking for validation. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe his parents would have been upset for a little bit. His
Absolutely.
Kids would have been a little disappointed, but he would have found everything that he was so excited to look for.
Yeah.
He was so excited to find someone who could see him for who he really was, who could support him, who, he wanted to go back to school. Like, he had all of these dreams that he wanted to do, and they were gone in an instant. And he never did any of them.
It's a story that's so common, though. And that's what's so unfortunate, is why people need you, and they really need to read the book, and they need to like tune into stuff like this. And I have somebody in my boot camp right now, and she bought a business, and so she's like about to join the boot camp. We're having a conversation, and like she signs up, and then she says, well, the big challenge right now that I have is that I haven't told the boss of the company that I work for that I bought this company. I'm like, we're gonna need to overcome that challenge really quickly. You need to address that. That's the first thing you need to address, because you're never going to be successful in your business just based off your integrity.
Yeah.
You're not going to allow yourself to even go work your business, because you're going to feel this guilt of you haven't told your boss yet. And, I don't know what will happen. Like, he might say, good for you, keep on doing what you're doing. Maybe your biggest fear comes to life and he says, that's unacceptable, and you're fired. However, if you want to do this, you've got to tell them.
Yeah.
Again, we got to work through this. I'm not going to tell you it's going to work out well, because I have no idea how he's going to respond. But if he's the right person, and if it's worth continuing that job, even, he's going to be like, good for you, let's do this.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can hire you as my client. It could work out, but you got to have that conversation. You can't hide that.
Yeah, you can't hide that at all. And I think even if it does go bad, I think there is options for reconciliation. And I only say that because I recently, when I was working at Weber's, the way that they let me go was really just like, okay, in the middle of the shift, they come in, they fire me, and I'm like gathering my stuff. But I just sent an email to my boss, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to badmouth you. I'm not going to talk shit about you guys. I said, I really respect you. I said, but what I am going to say is I feel like you're reacting. This is an overreaction to a minor situation. And he just wrote back. He said, thank you. Let me know when the book comes out. And of course, my son wanted to quit immediately. And I was like, no, we're going to have integrity. We're going to have character. You stay working there. They're not being mean to you, I don't need you to come to my defense. We're fine, stay. And so my son still continues to work there. And my former boss showed up at my new work and had lunch. And he, I was walking by, I was doing my stuff, and he called out to me. I wouldn't have even recognized him. And it was just so nice to know that, one, I chose kindness, forgiveness, integrity, having the honest conversation with him, like, hey, I'm not okay with this. I respect you. I'm going to respect you. I'm not okay with the decision. But but everything else worked out, you know? And then to be able to catch up and not feel animosity.
Yeah.
You know, I invited him to the release party. He's going to look up my book. He said he will. I don't know if he does. But, you know, like it's just when we act in those kind of ways, no matter how scary it is, no matter how much people will tell you, advocate for you to do it otherwise. Like everyone was like, you need to sue him. You need to do this. You do that. I'm like, ugh, that's not the life I want to live.
And again, by pursuing that, you're just doing something based off of what other people tell you that you should do.
Yeah.
You know, like in the meantime, you have this relationship where there's not a bridge burnt. You know, he was a boss, but there's a whole relationship there where he's coming in and seeing you at your new place, you know, and asking about when your book's going to come out because he wants to check it out. Looking back at the house, you know, and how you handled that. And, you know, like if for your kids listening and for people that are like, think that you're just a pushover, there's a tact in a way that you're handling relationships where you're not burning the bridges and they circle back around to be opportunities. You don't have to walk on eggshells and like, I hope I don't run into that person in public, you know, because you burnt that bridge. And then here's kind of a funny thing is like, could you imagine if you were the person blowing up on everybody? Like you did handle that situation. Like, oh yeah, Johnny's coming out with this book. She's going to teach us. She's a speaker on communication. She's going to tell us how to all live.
Well, and that's what I think is so funny. Like, you know, any kind of rumors or anything like that. Like I talked about it with someone the other day. Like people carry beefs and someone at work was like, oh, I hear you're beefing with so-and-so. And I was like,
I'm not Tupac.
Oh my God. But you know, like it's just so funny because I'm like, if you really listen to these rumors, man, I am the worst hypocrite ever. like, great. Okay. Maybe that's why I'm still tested. I don't know. You know, like fine. I'll just keep trying to live my life. Not burn bridges, you know. So many broken relationships already out there. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want carnage behind me. It's terrible.
That's exactly. Boot camp again, just because it's been my recent experiences, right? But just telling somebody the other day, one of the best compliments I ever had working with and coaching a salesperson was, he was like, you know, my boss hired you to work with me and help me become a better salesperson. He was like, but through this situation we have and like what I've learned from you, he's like, the other day I was at my parents' house and I was sitting and I was watching the way that they communicated with each other. And then I started recognizing the patterns, the way that I communicate with this then girlfriend. And he was like, and I'm watching myself go down and just repeat behaviors and how much I hated those behaviors when I was growing up and realizing I don't want to go down this path and I can choose a different way. And he was like, and what I thought would just be teaching me how to become a better salesperson is helping me actually really shape who I am as an adult male. Yes. And I'm like, wow. That's it. Oh my God. Because again, it comes down to if you're trying to be the best salesperson, like you're probably going to look like Rudolph with his black nose, trying to be like you're fake and you're authentic. When you're coming and you're you, you're bringing there's one Johnny. And yeah, we all go through our bad moods and stuff like that. But there's not which one's going to show up today? You know, Johnny's coming awesome. Yeah, which one shows up? Because that's a brand.
Yeah.
And you say nobody wants to be the person that's like, oh man, like they're, you know, Johnny blows up on us all the time. Like nobody wants to be that person. But there are people that you know that when somebody says, oh, so-and-so is coming, you're like, I probably won't be there. You know, I don't want to be around that energy. Yeah. That's a brand and a marketing that they've put out there that's who they are.
Well, and it's that, and we see that a lot. It's that toxic, you know, the highs and the lows. Like you're constantly, oh, they're so great all of a sudden. But then when they're low, you're like, oh my God, it's just, when are we getting back to the high one? You know, like, and that's so toxic. It's so terrible. And it just, your relationship should have equilibrium.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you get so much more done when it's like that. You just are so much more successful when there's this constant and you're not having to like, am I doing this all right? No, we've built a relationship and yes.
And again, it's not everything is happy and positive. No, there are challenges and problems and conflict and friction. We just got to get through it in a way that like we're communicating.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and that's what I kind of like for the job that I'm at right now. I'm at the Dixboro Project, it's a restaurant, and I manage the brunch service. And if you've ever been to a brunch service, it's a little wild. But I try to like just be a steady in the middle of the chaos, because, you know, chaos can be running around you. It's that little light, you know, like, okay, I'm going to try to make sure you feel supported. I'm going to try to make sure you feel encouraged. I'm not going to come down on you because you missed something here. I get it. There's chaos swirling around us. And if we just, let's stay steady. That's what I hope to bring to the team every weekend.
It's so awesome. Joni, I'm so glad that you reached out and asked me. Like, it was like really cool. I'm like, yes, let's go. Are you available on Monday?
I know. It's like, wait, Monday's Labor Day too.
Oh yeah, I know. I was told I was booking stuff on Labor Day. I didn't even realize it. And yeah. People were like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But thank you for coming out, checking out the studio. This has been such an awesome and powerful conversation.
Thank you.
My pleasure.